Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Laugh and Learn Human Design. And this is Environments Part 3. We're going to finish up the environments. I am TarotStache. Thank you for being here. It's great to share space with you. And I am joined by Jennifer. So, hi, Jennifer.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I always love these chats.
I'm a big fan of them too. And so for those of you who may not be up to date on what we're doing with the human design, there is a playlist below about all of the human design stuff. And I'll be honest with you, it's a lot to take in. So no worries if you want to rewatch it or anything like that. It's all good. So, and there's also a link in the description to where you can get your design chart. So, which looks like that. And that is from Jennifer's website, which is linked below.
Yes.
And there's a lot of really good information in the reports that you get. Very insightful. It's quite good. So it's fun. It's like, ooh. So
I can put it in here too, as a just in case somebody's trying to find it. Oh, I think it only let me do it to one as opposed to all. That's okay.
That's all right. Okay, let me do that. So will you remind everybody what's going on for you, where they can find you and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So the website that I put up there was for passengerconsciousness.ca. You can also find me at myholisticself.com or myholisticselfcounselling.com. Either one of those websites are going to be able to give you the free chart with the amazingly extensive write-up about the information in your chart. And then if you want to dive deeper, obviously you can reach out and book something.
Yes.
Through there.
So, yes. And so this human design is something, here's a little book. It's the definitive book of human design, the science of differentiation. And purchase responsibly, know your limits. You do not need this book in order to benefit from what we're talking about. And human design is one of those things. And Jennifer and I have been talking about this. Has it been over a year?
I feel like it's been quite some time now. Yeah.
Yeah. So human design is a great way to understand your natural tendencies in the environment and interacting with the environment and other people. And so I am a person who, when I know what my natural tendencies are, I can set myself up for success. I can take those things into consideration, and I use those to help me be fully engaged in the world around me. So, and as always, this is for entertainment purposes only. Do not make decisions based upon what we say. Seek professional assistance, really. And we have some of the best chatters here: Joanne, Mary Alice, Maru. Oh, here is the link. Cheryl and Russ Bob's Barbara, Winds of Reflection. Ravneet, thank you for being here. And thank you. Maru has also done that.
Oh, thank you.
But all right. So let's talk a little bit about how our environments determined, and then the flip side of that is why are they important?
Yeah. So we can back up a bit and kind of look at that again. So in our charts, everything is based on our date, time, location of birth, just like it is with astrology. And so you guys will see that in your charts if you go ahead and pull them. So each planet gets a gate that it's associated with. And then we've got all of the line energy that's associated with that. So this is based in the I Ching. And I could Well, I could pull out all of that as well if we want to again, but we did actually go through some of that before when we did the talk on transits. But what we're looking at here with our environments and a lot to do with our personal health system has to do with the nodes. So where the north and south nodes are, at the time of our birth determines a lot about what is going to be good for us in terms of living according to our design.
These are the nodes, right? That's the indication of the nodes. So this is my chart, in case you wanted to have a snapshot of me. So get your own chart.
Well, and it's fantastic. Like Ra talks about the nodes, and he talks about them as like link nodes. And it's so cool because it's about how our trajectory is linked to our personality and how our personality is able to be fully developed in the right environments. And so there is a huge connection there. The other part of it that he talks about that I find fascinating and I think is so important is environments gives us boundaries. Right? It gives us limitations. And it helps us to recognize that actually within this framework, I operate really well. And if I don't have this framework around me, I may not feel good. I might not feel like I operate well. I might not feel like I can connect well. I may have a lot of, hindrances that come up if I'm not in that correct environment for me.
Yes. And there are always times in our lives when we're not in a framework that is the best for us. That's okay. That's called interacting with other people. It's called being alive. And one of the things that I really appreciate what you just said, Jennifer, is you said environments gives us boundaries and limitations, and it's a framework. There are no bad words associated with that. These are all empowering words: boundaries, limitations, frameworks. So this is about maximizing who you are and how you engage with the world.
Absolutely. So big thing with human design, and I don't think we've really gotten into it, is the idea of differentiation. Right. And so what Ra talks about is that the conditioning that we experience just being here tries to put us into a mold, and it tries to make us all be the same. Right. Well, we know that all the same doesn't work. We're not meant to be all the same. And if we were, this would be a really dull world that we live in. Environment, Ra says, is actually the bedrock of differentiation, which means that being in the correct environment for us is actually the foundation of what helps us to be uniquely ourselves.
Okay. Wow.
Right? And so we recognize then that if we're in these environments that don't resonate for us, don't feel good for us, we're going to jump into that not self. And we're going to have all of those not self themes come through because we're trying to figure out how to navigate things that don't resonate for us.
Yeah, that's so true. We have had a few more people come in, and Winds of Reflection said, I'm a reflector by human design. So fascinating.
Well, and reflectors, your whole design and setup is so unique in the way that you're meant to navigate the world, and understanding it and understanding what it actually means to sample and to reflect is such an important piece for your journey, so that you're not absorbing, because you're not meant to absorb. You're not meant to take it on.
Right. You're just meant to reflect, hence reflector. So
yeah.
And Kaylee is here. Hello, Kaylee. Good to see you. Kristen Louise has joined us, Nine Worlds Intuitive Tarot. Great to see you. So we are simulcasting this. Jennifer does embed this on her website, so it's available. So that's very helpful. So, all right. So environments are important because they're the thing that really gives us an opportunity to be authentically who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when we talk about the different ways that the auras operate within the different types, whether it's reflector, as we were just talking about, the generator with the manifesting generator, projector energy, manifestor energy, when we are in the correct environment, our aura is able to operate correctly. When we are not in the correct environment, our aura is not felt correctly. It's not received properly. It's not responded to well. We don't feel right in it. So we do begin to notice, especially, like I had said in the previous episodes, like from 30 on, we do begin to notice that actually in these certain environments, I don't feel well. It's so interesting. What's coming to mind here is, how as a kid, we're like, I could go anywhere. I could do anything. I could talk to anybody. It didn't really matter. And then as all of a sudden, as we get older, it's like, oh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. That doesn't feel very good to me.
Yeah. Oh, I understand. Cheryl asked, which chart do I have? And this is one of the new charts that you've done. So this is the recent update. So, and it has all of the information here on the sides, and then you can download other information from it, and including basically all this stuff on the side. Signature, not self, strategy, authority. It's the basic human design chart. So, and but I don't know if there's a specific name for it.
Yeah. So if you're on the web page, it says select chart type. You just want to do HD traditional, and that's what we're talking about right now.
HD traditional, human design traditional. How's that?
You got it. That's where the HD comes from.
So
I know that in the drop down, there's a bunch of options.
There are, and I was playing with those options.
Yeah.
So having a bit of fun. So Had Enough is here, and Maru will be back getting their mail.
Okay.
So thank you. You're welcome. HD traditional, yes. HD traditional. And I have to say, I don't know about you all, but sometimes the rabbit hole of discovering things can be really, really fun. I also don't know about you, but I have to set a timer so that because sometimes when I get caught up in stuff, I know nobody else has this ever happen, but time just seems to whip by, and I'm like, what? So
yeah, definitely.
Suzanne G is here as well. Okay, so we're talking about we're now on. Okay, so we've done the environment or caves. We've done markets, kitchens, mountains, and now we're doing valleys and shores. So let's start with valleys environment.
Yeah. So remember how we were talking about the hexagram, and the first 3 are at the bottom of the hexagram, and then we've switched over with mountains to the top part of the hexagram, right? Yes. And so what we're looking at now is that top part of the hexagram. So these are the landscapes. So remember, the hardscapes 1 through 3 are more set. They're more specific in their detail. Whereas the ones we're going to talk about today, including mountains from last time, are landscapes. These are concepts of places. And so they're more open and general, and they can be interpreted in different ways.
Okay.
And so what we're looking at now with valleys and with shores is we're going to be looking at the different ways that these can show up.
Okay,
so there's going to be some specifics, obviously, and then there's going to be just some kind of general things about them. So you know how in mountains we were talking about like oxygen level and how that, it's that kind of up high and it's a bit thinner air and all that. Valleys is the opposite. right? When you think about
Oh, mm-hmm.
it. So with valleys, oxygen consumption also plays a big role in this and in how you're going to be feeling, right? And so it's just switching that around. So the thinner the oxygen, the healthier for the mountains. Well, with the valleys, the denser the oxygen, the better it's going to be environmentally for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when we look at a valley, it really is that like that bottom, right? That ground floor, that being in that more dense energy.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting here is that valleys, as like a general overview, is a very, very social environment,
Okay.
right? So again, you think about it, caves, still social, but we're having people like, come into our cave or
Yes.
we're, allowing this energy. Um, Markets, it's social, but it's under a certain parameter of what that looks like. Kitchens, again, we're building it, right? So we're building the mountains is kind of overseeing what's
Mm-hmm.
happening, but not necessarily in the
Mm-hmm.
muck of it all.
Yes.
And then here we are with valleys, which is incredibly social. It is right in that environment. Valleys, people need a lot of people around them. They need places where there's a lot of human activity, a lot of interaction. And so, that idea of where people would gather, right? Where people would travel, where they'd share ideas, where they would just come together and bring, different news and things like that from different places. There's some association here with gossip, which, like it's all fits within that valley piece
Sure. Yes.
sense of like, oh, I want to be mean about somebody, but just that idea of I want to get the information, I want to share the information, I want to know what's happening, right? I want to be a part of.
Yeah, and I mean that makes sense because in a lot of human interaction, there's a lot of conversation going on, and with any conversation, stories stories evolve in the telling of the story. This is where I could see storytellers, the ones who are very good at telling what they've heard, are
Mm-hmm.
probably going to be very popular. So, had enough said, down in the valley so low, hang your head over, hear the wind blow. Beth Aspasia Rising is here.
Hello,
So,
hello.
and by the way, I am a mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about that last time. So, that's interesting. So valleys, thicker oxygen. You've got to have a lot of things to breathe in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love the way that you said that because that's really what it's all about. Right? It's there's no need to filter it. There's not that, like again talking that opposite with mountains where we want to be very, particular
Mm-hmm.
about what we breathe in, right?
Yes.
Whereas valleys is like just
Just let it all
bring
come in.
it in, bring it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's true about me as somebody who does well in a mountains environment. I am particular about who gets to be in that intimate space.
Hmm.
So, but yeah. And yes, I knew it was a song, Hattie, and Suzanne G understands it. She got that
Yeah.
one too. So, shall we also talk about the next one, shores, and then we can sort of
Circle back.
continue to weave them together?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
For sure. For sure. Sure. For sure. For sure. For sure.
So shores are 6. And so the line 6 is a lot about transcending energy. And
Mm-hmm.
so shores is about that. And so shores has a lot of room for interpretation in terms of how it shows up as this landscape. The idea with shores is that if you think about a shoreline, right, where the water meets the land, there's a change, within the environment. There's something where
Oh,
one thing meets another thing, right? So it's not like kitchens where we're alchemizing a bunch of different things and bringing them together to make something new. It really is about these two different environments that come together, and that there's a dividing line with them, like you would have with a shore, right? So there's different environments that could work like that. It could be something as simple as sitting next to a window, right? A window seat, or sitting on a porch. Being in town, but being on the river, right? So I'm thinking about here in Ottawa, there's the river right there, the Ottawa River. And so the government buildings are right there on the river, right? So it's that ability to be where two different energies basically meet and come, so shores people might really enjoy, say, sunsets or sunrises, right? That place where we're just in that point of, transition between night and day and night.
So it's when I, that idea of transcending energy, it's almost a bit like alchemy in a way, but it's not. There's something different about it, and I don't have the words to describe it.
So when I think about alchemy, because alchemy has to do with kitchens is my environment. It has to do with how can I take all of these different things and bring them together and make something new with them. Right? It's not about having, think about a milkshake versus a sundae.
Yes.
Right? The sundae, we have all the different bits and pieces, and they're all still components and they're all still there.
Yes.
Whereas the milkshake is all blended together and it's just one thing.
Yes.
That's kind of the difference here between the two. And it's interesting because when we look at, the idea of transference, right? One goes to 4, 2 goes to 5, 3 goes to 6, and vice versa. Right. And so that idea of kitchens and shores can get a little muddled sometimes. And so sometimes we might find ourselves wanting to be in a particular energy and then realize that that's actually not what our energy is meant to be. And so, I think that that's a whole other conversation that we could dive into around transference. But that's the piece, right? So, what's coming to mind is like living next to a railroad track, living next to a city line, like a town line, right?
Yes.
Maybe where it switches from country into city, right? Or that suburban kind of area where it's that in between. So there's lots of different ways that you can play with this. This is what I mean by how shores has a lot of room for interpretation.
Yes, and it's actually very beautiful and actually very poetic. Beth said it reminds me of a temperance card. And Lauren Huntsinger is here. So hello, Lauren.
Hello.
So, and I like, okay, so you also said there's transference. So kitchens and shores sometimes get mixed up, or they can not mixed up. That's the wrong word. Sorry. They're similar, yet they're different, because when you think you're in the right environment and you slow down enough and you go, wait a minute, there's a key component missing, and you suddenly go, oh, so then you just need to make a bit of an energy shift to get that settled. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. It's what's interesting with transference is it's the not self that wants to do that. And so when we look at shadow, if we were to bring up like the shadow chart or something like that, what happens in that place where we're operating from the not self, or we're operating from the shadow aspects, we may find that we get pulled towards that which we have transference to. Right. And it's interesting when you think about it. Okay, so we've got caves, right, which is the first of the trigram.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got mountains, which is the first of the upper trigram.
Uh-huh.
Right? So you think about caves and mountains,
Yes.
right? There's a lot of similarities there, but there's also some very distinct differences,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then
Yes.
we move into the next one, so the 2 and the 4,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we're going, okay, so with 2, we're looking at markets,
Mm-hmm.
right? The markets is that environment where there's a lot of hustle and bustle, there's a lot of stuff going on. And then we
Mm-hmm.
look at valleys and we
Yeah.
go, oh, sorry, 2 and 5. And so we look at valleys and we go, okay, I see how there's a lot similarity here, and yet they're not the same, right? And then again with kitchens and shores, so the 3 and the 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
Right.
about that, the 3 and the 6. I'm sorry. Yeah, the 3 and the 6, the kitchens and the shore. There's a lot of blending energy, and one is out in the open, and one is is a contained environment. One's in your house. One's on the main strip downtown. So,
Yeah, I mean, again, remember the first 3 are hardscapes. They're much more specific in terms of what the actual environment is meant to hold,
mhm.
whereas the top 3 are landscapes. They are concepts.
Yes.
They don't have to be specific. Somebody who has mountains does not have to go live up in the mountains. They could, and that might be great for them, but that's not where they have to be. It's the concepts associated with it that make a difference. Whereas
Yes.
caves, not saying the person needs to go find a cave in a mountain and live in it,
Mhm.
but that idea of having a closed-in space, a safe space around them, that
Yes.
ability to have nothing that can come through behind them, having one entrance in and out. It's
Sure.
much more specific in terms of what that environment looks like.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes. Garnet has joined us, and we have a question from Beth. Sorry if you've already said this, but how are we applying these environments? What's the criteria?
Great question.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically why we're doing environments to begin with, is the application of it.
Yes.
Right? We want to be able to notice, where do we feel like we can be ourselves? Where do we feel like the energies within us feel aligned? Right? So all of the other things that we talk about in our chart, we talk about our openness, our definition. We talk about the aura types that are there, our profiles, our incarnation cross, which is our purpose for being here.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things need us to be in the right environment in order for them to be aligned.
Mm.
So when we talk about, okay, how do I apply this? What we're looking at is, how can I meet these certain criteria within my environment, right? And so valleys, if we're looking specifically at that, since that's one of the ones we're talking about today, what are spaces that I can be in where I can gather with others, where I can share ideas,
Yes.
where I can, have meals with people, where I can get news, where I can tell my
Mm-hmm.
story, I can hear other people's stories. And then there is that little bit of component with markets where it's like being able to share wares and things as well.
Yes.
And then we look at it because it's all about an exchange of energy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
having a lot of exchange of energy. This is
Yes.
very, very different than caves, where we're very, very selective about
Mm-hmm.
the energy exchange that we have. Um, and so it's like, okay, I need to find an environment, if I'm valleys, that's going to allow me to have that buzz of energy around me. That's going
Yes.
to allow me to connect with lots of people, to be able to share those ideas. Like I said, gossip, and that, even reality TV shows,
Sure.
right? In
Sure.
a lot of the different writings, people talk about how people that are valleys environment are going to really like that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I say that because I'm not a Valleys and it's not my thing, but that's okay, because if you're Valleys, that ability to take in all of these different experiences and all of these different things that people are going through and all like that, it's going to feed that energy for you.
Right.
Right. Because it's all about, I want to know, I want to understand. I don't like it when things are hidden. I don't like it when I don't have access to all the information.
Yes.
Right. And so for Valleys, it's going to be really important for them to be able to have access to that. And then looking at it from a very, strategic kind of specific environmental thing, be close to the ground, right? You're not looking to be up high in a mountain. You're not looking to be at the top of a high-rise building, right? The closer to the ground you are, the more grounded, literally, you're probably going to feel.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to go on a trip, you might want to go on a road trip instead of flying somewhere. It's that ability to be in that denser energy, that denser oxygen energy, and that denser energy in general.
I like that. And we had a question from Suzanne G. Are older videos on your channel, Gerald? They are on my channel. I actually put in there the human design playlist. You have them all on your website in human design, so they're there. So trust me, I'm very pleased with these, so I'm telling everybody about them. And Beth had a follow-up question. Are these a bit like doshas? Everyone has a main one, but to be healthy, perhaps move around in environments as needed to grow?
So
that's a thought-provoking question.
Yeah, we can move in and out of different environments. And if we're in an environment for a period of time, it's not a big deal. But our main environments that we're in are not going to change over time. The importance of them will change over time. So what Ra talks about is that in the first 30 years of our life, we're working more on our profile, on understanding ourselves, on growing and seeing how we interact with the environments.
Mm-hmm.
But from the time that we're 30 on, our nodes become really, really important. And that's when we have to really pay attention to the personal health system, which includes environments.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when, if we're not in the right environments, we're going to feel the impact of it that much more. It's not to say that we don't care about environments for children. We do. And the environments can be very helpful for children. For example, you have a kiddo who has caves and they're being forced to go out and socialize with every kid on the playground. They're not going to do well. You have a child who is Valleys and you keep them in a bubble. They're not going to do well.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, there is that piece, but ultimately, the more that we grow and evolve, it's not going to make it so we suddenly do better in a different environment. What we may actually end up finding is that we've lived so much of our life, maybe feeling into the transference of the environment. And then we go, wait a minute, this is what needs to shift in order for me to be in the correct environment for me.
Which also goes back to that idea of is as we get older, these become more apparent, more important. So yeah. Beth said, right, totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And Tanis, Twillo Lifestyle Community is here. Hello. Good to see you. Good to see you. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. It's really what's coming is just the importance of noticing and paying attention. We talk so much, and even Tanis and I in Twillo Talk, we talk a lot about being the observer. What it is to just observe what is going on with me. How am I feeling? How am I showing up? Do I feel like I resonate with where I'm at or what I'm doing? And the more that we allow ourselves to observe that and to pay attention to it, the more we're going to notice this actually doesn't feel right. And I think I need to shift this.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because as what do they say about kids' brains? They're much more flexible, they're pliable, and
Mhm.
so they sometimes kids who are really a kitchen, but they're in the valleys. They can manage that for a while because they're pretty resilient.
Yeah.
So, but then as we get older and we become more self-aware and what we are noticing, where we feel truly connected and we allow our heart to lead instead of our brain, that works. Okay, so Beth said, wow,
Mhm.
so parental and societal expectations as well as professional choices can really put us in the uncomfortable environments.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And we see it so often. It's one of the things that Ra talks about that I really appreciate is we are learning all of this and we're meant to bring it in, but we are not necessarily meant to even bring it in for ourselves. We are meant to bring it in so that we can then raise the next generation to actually be in alignment with who they are meant to be, so that they don't have to bump up against all of the same stuff that we are bumping up against because we've
Mm-hmm.
not been able to be aligned with who we are from the get-go,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so, yes, it's very, very important that we learn all of this, but it's so important that we learn all of this and we understand it so that we can then show up for the next generation so that they can live this to their fullest.
Yes. That also then goes with the idea of this vibrational changes that are going on.
Mhm.
So, this human design showing up is important at this time. People becoming aware of this, sharing this. I like that idea of is this. Well, and part of that is this, and I think this is again for entertainment purposes only. Gerald has an opinion,
Where's your
but
soapbox card?
yes, yes. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I don't know where my soapbox is.
Uh-oh.
Um, but one of the things that's really important is children and others learn by observing us and
Yeah.
what we're doing when we hit something that is authentically us yet foreign. It feels right, but we don't know how to do it. And so that's where it's like when parents are arguing and they have a fight, it's
Mhm.
okay to actually it's okay for somebody to say, I need a timeout, and then
Mhm.
respectfully allow that time out and then come back together so people can observe what healthier interactions look like in reality.
Yeah,
So, and and
absolutely.
yeah, and so that idea of is boys don't cry, bullshit. um, Boys aren't emotional, bullshit. And I also say, again, soapbox, soapbox, soapbox. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate the idea of is we give an excuse for people not to struggle with how they're feeling, and
Exactly.
yeah, and TV does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, and what's nicer than seeing a father holding his autistic son who is struggling with being overwhelmed, and he feels safe in his dad's arms, and dad's like, okay, come on.
Mhm.
And that's the reality of it. So, okay,
Absolutely. I need to jump on your soapbox with you though for just a moment, because
please do.
if almost half of the world's population has a defined solar plexus, which means that they have an emotional authority,
Mm-hmm.
they have to feel all of the feels in order to know what is correct for them.
Mm.
Now we live in a world that stifles feelings, stifles emotion, says don't feel your feelings, just decide, just figure it out, just
Yes.
do it, whatever it is. And 50% of the world is meant to go through those emotional waves before they choose anything important in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And then we look at all of...
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, then we look at all of the other authorities. There's only 2 authorities out there, the sacral and the spleen, that absolutely in the moment can know if something is okay or not for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And even the universe agrees with you because, you know, you got the balloons.
Exactly. Every other authority has to take some time. They have to talk it out. They have to express it in order to hear themselves say it. They have to wait for a lunar cycle to go through before they know if it's correct for them or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a very small amount of people in the world actually know in the moment.
Yeah.
So that idea of, I need to take a time out. I need to step away. I need to process what is happening inside of me, and then I'll get back to you. Is like,
yeah. I love that because I remember that, and it must have been in my therapy like 15 years ago. And also when I was doing postgraduate work in Gestalt, the importance of that awareness, knowing exactly where you are. And if you can't move on, to say, I need a break. And then you really build relationships with people when you honor what they have said. I need a break. And you say, okay, how long do you need? Let's come back in a half an hour, or we'll talk about this tomorrow. But also there's that idea of I need a break, and it's okay to say we don't have time for a break. It's like, and so it shifts the energy. Suddenly, instead of being against something, suddenly people are with and looking at what's going on together, instead of trying to solve a problem by battling each other when the problem's out here and they're doing this. Okay. Soapbox disengaged. Cheryl said self-awareness helps us notice if we're in the right place mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have kids in my home now. I have to readjust to being observed by little eyes. And what a great opportunity for those little eyes to be with an adult who has some self-awareness and who can say, I don't know how I feel right now, or I need to think about this out loud, or I need to put myself in timeout, or I need to do that. What a thrill. What a thrill. So good for you.
Well, and that timeout piece, I mean, regardless of whether we have a defined solar plexus or not, that timeout piece is so powerful. Undefined solar plexus, which means that I pick up the emotions of everybody around me. And then if I'm not in a healthy place, will amplify to the point of distortion, which means you're mad at me, I'm 10 times more mad at you.
Yep.
Right. And so that time out to say, I need a minute, like I'm feeling some feels, and I need you not to be in my energy so that I can clear all of this, so that I can figure out what I actually feel right now.
Yeah. I love that. That's so powerful. Yeah. And Cheryl is right. So much BS. Society has made it hard for everyone, men and women. Dogma has done more damage than good. In many cases, absolutely, I agree with you, Cheryl. I mean, and part of when we are in relationships with people and we know their environment, we have an opportunity to allow them to be in that environment sooner rather than later. Especially if I'm a mountains, and I don't remember what Jeffrey is. Oh, I know why I don't know what Jeffrey is, because I gave him his design because I wanted him to read it before I read it. I was like, I don't want to do that. But I think there's a beauty in this. It's like going, if I know I need the mountains environment, and let's say he needs a caves environment, there's a beauty in knowing what the other one needs, because isn't that part of being in a relationship? Knowing what the other person needs and providing it to them, sometimes before they even know that that's what they need.
Yes.
It's powerful. So
That's
Kristen
so
Louise said, apparently I'm a manifesting generator, but I'm chronically struggling with fatigue. I wonder if my environment is contributing to this.
quite possibly. Our environment really does contribute to the health of our body and how we're able to deal with every other aspect of the personal health system,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which has to do with how we digest and how we navigate mental stimulation, how all of that gets kind of processed through us. The other thing with the manifesting generator that you want to be mindful of with that fatigue is, again, going back to just the generator aura. Am I saying yes to the things that light me up and no to the things that don't? And if I am, then I'm using my energy in a way that's actually going to continue to recharge my battery. If I'm not, I am draining that battery exponentially, right? You think about a battery that's plugged in properly versus a battery that's plugged in backwards. It's not going to work and you're going to kill the battery.
Yeah.
Right? So
Well,
just
and I love that is that, and this whole idea of the human design stuff, why I enjoy talking about it is these are things that can be in your toolbox for, you want to tune up the car regularly to avoid, having to replace the engine. So little tweaks can matter. So, Kristen Louise, I know you're an overachiever, or I believe you're not going to read this book in a weekend. And it's like,
and if you do, you're not going to get out of it what you need to get out of it.
And so, and cutting ourselves a break and taking in enough information. So I'm like, wow, this is really invigorating. It's like, okay, that's cool. So I hope that helps, Kristen Louise. I appreciate the question, and that would be something to definitely look at your human design chart and see what that is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different components to that that we could look at. So when you look at your chart, you want to look at, am I following my strategy? Right? Again, that's that piece of, am I responding to things or am I trying to make things happen? So if I'm pushing, that's manifestor energy. If I am responding to things that are happening within my environment, now that's in that generator energy. And even as a manifesting generator, you're still in a generator aura.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a huge component. And then what is my authority? Am I actually making decisions based on my authority? So as a manifesting generator, it's either going to be your solar plexus, which is emotional, or it's going to be your sacral. It will be one of those two because of the hierarchy of authorities. So either you don't know in the moment and you have to wait and go through the emotional wave, or you've got to follow that sacral yes or no in the moment. And if you're not following it, you're draining that battery.
Yeah.
Right. And then we get into so many other components of that that can talk about our health and how we're taking care of ourselves. We can even look at the nutrition aspects of it based on formatting channels. Like, there's so much in here.
Yes.
But those are the places that you start. Am I in the right environment? Am I following my strategy and authority? And if you can make sure you're doing that, then we can start to fine tune the other stuff.
That's powerful. And Kristen Louise did say that did help.
Good.
So, Beth said, OMG, no wonder I've been divorced twice. It's all clear now. I'm not going to figure out what you need if you're an adult. Tell me or not. LOL. Kids and dogs, yes. I'll put all the energy in.
There you go.
Well, and I would actually say I want to push back a little bit on this, Beth, and I can do this because Beth and I know each other. It's like, I'm not going to figure out what you want if you're an adult. And I'm going to push back a little bit. I might actually go, what do you need? I might, because I care about an individual, I might say, tell me a little bit more about what you're needing and you're processing. Because yes, you're an adult and I expect you to have some experience. Problem is, and for me is, I don't oftentimes have the words to describe something that I'm recently become aware of experiencing. I'm like going, I don't know what that is. And boy, let me tell you, sharing space with people who I've said that to, and they go, okay, I'll sit with you, talk, figure it out. And it's like, ooh, that's a big thing, because that's helping each other.
Yeah.
And totally getting that.
Yeah, for sure. That component, though, of like, tell me or not, I think that there are going to be times where we have to give that space if people are not, they don't want to, and they're not willing to go there. And sometimes we can figure it all out. Like, I can have somebody else's chart and I can go, okay, I can see what they need, and they still aren't willing to receive it, or hold space for it. And so I do think that we have to be mindful of that. But I really appreciate, Gerald, what you're saying, because one of the beautiful things with human design is that we can begin to understand dynamics within relationships without even having to talk to the other person about it. Right? I think I shared this experience with you guys at one point in one of the other episodes, but my youngest really doesn't feel like he's heard. He doesn't feel like we listen. He doesn't feel like we give him a say. He thinks that we always listen to Ray instead. And when we were doing the charts, we're all going, no, we listen. You just talk about like stuff we don't want to talk about, right? Like, it's all this, right? But we try and we give it time. And then we looked at it and it's like, okay, but my youngest has an open throat center. So he's not being listened to. He's not being heard accurately. That's just a given. Without an invitation, that throat center, it does not get heard. And my eldest has the channel of the alpha with a defined throat. We are listening more for sure. And it took a moment and I just went, oh, crap. I see what's happening that I couldn't see in the midst of it. But the moment it was laid out in the design, I went, oh, we are doing that. And I remember sitting with him and he just cried. Because at that moment he was seen and he was validated and he went, this is what I've been feeling. Right. And then we were able to shift that and meet him where he was at.
Yes. And when we have that understanding of the other and their experience, it doesn't take a whole lot of shift to include the other. I would, like Nalani, I would actually go, I would be running every kid's chart in just to get an understanding. But yeah, I mean, because when you have understanding of what's going on, it's easy to, or excuse me, you can be more thoughtful to include and create an opportunity for someone to participate.
Most definitely.
Yeah, Beth said, my 5-year-old granddaughter told me her parents when she was 4 and the new baby came, I don't feel like you're hearing me. That's so awesome. Kudos to those parents for making it okay for that child to say that and creating the language. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. My mom used to say things that I couldn't hear. Someone else could get the same message through. Yeah. There's a lot of layers in that.
A lot of layers, but it could, I mean, it could be simply definition, right? We just don't always hear certain people, and then we hear others. At the same time, I'm reminded of, driving with my eldest, and we've talked about so many things around like personality traits and different behaviors and stuff like that. And it's always, that teenager, like, no, not one of you. But then it was like, okay, well, Ray actually asked me about the chart, and I was like, yeah, here. And I remember that conversation in that car ride so vividly, because we're going through and it's like, oh, look, it's right here in my chart. I guess I do that. And then the more you think about, yeah, no, I
Yep.
do see where I do that. But it's no longer this thing that's going to trigger defensiveness in us. And I think that's the other piece about human design that's so beautiful, is not somebody else coming in and going, well, you do this and you do that and you do right. It's right there in the mechanics. And it shows us like, yeah, actually, I I do this sometimes, and I do see how that shows up, and I actually am able to see what I could do differently here, and how that's being pulled from me. And it opens us to a whole new level of understanding around the dynamics that are happening inside of us,
Mm-hmm.
so that we don't have to put up walls against them, but we can actually make a shift.
Yeah. Yes, defensiveness stalls progress. And I think about this, your 5-year-old's, granddaughter being able to articulate that. I wonder what what her parents would say if you praised them for creating an environment to where this child could say that. That's huge. That's
Mhm.
huge. And that's, again, let's teach the next generation. Your 5-year-old granddaughter is doing that. Imagine what that your granddaughter is going to be doing for the new baby.
Mhm.
And it's like, and doing that, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mind is like an umbrella. It works best when opened. Yes.
Agreed.
Yes. Wow. Okay. So this has been an hour.
I know. I know. And I think we shifted topic a little bit, but I think it was still really, really valuable.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. And that is one of those things that, as we look at all of this, the environments are important. But then understanding the environments, because you were talking about, the boundaries and the limitations and the framework. When I suddenly have a new understanding of what a different boundary is, or that framework, I can function in that.
Mhm.
So,
Well, that's it. It's about how we feel aligned in order to function,
yes.
right? So again, we go through it. Caves, they need to have comfort, they need to have security, right?
Mhm.
Markets, they need to have choice. They need to be able to be selective about the energies that are there, right? We look at kitchens, it's how can I bring things together? How can I bring about transformation? Right? Mountains, again, it's that I need to see the bigger picture. I need to be able to observe it and have that broader
Mhm.
perspective. Um, where am I at? Mountains,
We're in
valleys,
valleys now.
right? I need to be able to gather. I need to be able to exchange information. I need to be able to, bring a bunch of things together, in and out, right, of energies. And then shores is I need to be able to um, have new experiences, lean into new realities, have the ability to shift between things, and being in that space of the in between
Mhm.
experience, right? So we go through and it's like, okay, we can do that in a very specific setting, or we can bring those energies in a multitude of ways.
Yes, I like that. And again, that idea of is one environment is not better than the other. They're just different. And um, depending upon where we live, those environments, the environment around us may be conducive for us. It may match our environment, or it may match something else. So
Right. I think it is important there, Gerald, just a quick kind of caveat to that.
yes, please.
No environment is better than another, but there is a better environment for you.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
So you are on later today at 5 p.m. Eastern for Twillo Talk?
Yes, 5 p.m. Eastern for Twillo Talk with Tanis, who I know popped in at some point. And yeah, do I have anything else coming up this week? I don't think so. I know there's some stuff going on, but that's it for now. And then, we also, I think, have something on Saturday.
We actually have something on Sunday. It's a
Sunday.
creativity conversation, and we're talking about courageousness, being courageous.
There you go.
So this is it's going to be a lot of fun. Please do me the favor and like and subscribe to both of our channels. And the I've got lots of shows this week, so you don't want to miss them. So please subscribe. And are you finding Tanis's channel?
Do you want me to find Tanis's channel?
Hang on, I can.
You have it there? Yeah.
Hang on.
Oh, it's on there. Maru put it up.
Okay, thank you, Maru.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, so Twillo Talk will be on either of our channels, and on Facebook for either of us as well.
Yes.
And then
Jennifer and I will need to be talking about what could be a next topic for a Laugh and Learn Human Design. So I've got an idea, but let's keep it quiet and see if people, we'll keep everybody on edge. So.
I'm on edge. What are we doing? What do we do?
Right. Everyone, thank you very much, and you have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.